So recently, I've really been looking into generational astrology, in particular Pluto's movement through the houses, and it has been incredibly interesting. I have done a couple of videos on it, which is Plutonian Generations, a map to the evolution of society. That's kind of the overall view of what we're discussing. And then I'm going to do each individual placement that's currently relevant to us in society today and the foreseeable future. And those placements are Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius, also Capricorn. So I have already done one of those videos, which is Pluto in Leo. It will discuss how Pluto in Leo's generation had an impact on society as a whole. And then I'll move into the other videos probably week by week. And I will be getting on a regular schedule, so I will be able to tell you when I'll release my videos here in the very near future. So if y'all be patient with me just a little longer. I know y'all have been so cool and just letting me kind of do it whenever I do it. But I do plan on getting a schedule for this channel. So hopefully that'll help. But the thing that really resonates with me as I've been kind of going through all of this research and digging into these different generations is there's a big theme of ideology that's coming through. And it's that theme of ideology that is getting kind of brought to the surface at this moment, at this time period in society. And it's those ideologies that will be filtered out with future generations. So Leo's generation lasted 19 years. So Pluto in Leo lasts 19 years. And then the future generations are like, I believe that the next one was Virgo, which 15 years. Libra and Scorpio, I believe, were 13 years. And then Sagittarius is like 12. And then it starts to build back up as we move into Capricorn, Aquarius, Pisces. And that's because of its elliptical behavior. And if you haven't seen a picture of Pluto, and you need to check it out. Just Google, Pluto's orbit, and you'll see that Pluto has a totally different orbit than any of the other planets in our solar system. Perhaps that's why they downgraded it. But even though they downgraded it, it's still a vital part of astrology. So because of that elliptical orbit, some places it will be in those houses a little longer than others. And Leo just so happens that it was in there for 19 years, which is a really long time. And it has an impact on society that generation will have a longer impact. And during that 19 years when their generation was moving through Leo, a lot of things happened, a lot of things happened. They experienced war and social change and all sorts of changes to ideas and ideals and beliefs that they may have had instilled in them when they were young. So Leo generation has been fighting these ideals their whole lives, fighting themselves in their own minds and ways to get over the ideals and things that may have been created or instilled on them when they were children that aren't necessarily really relevant to where we are currently in society. But the Leo generation, and this is one of their aspects, is that they are incredibly subjective and not very objective, and they really have this patriarchal kind of energy about them in that I'm the adult in the room. But that may not necessarily be true, because there are other adults that can and are just as capable of doing the things that maybe Leo will not, and throughout their lives have not really been willing to let go or allow someone else to do. There's this control factor that comes through. And it's because of that we've been kind of stuck in this place where we haven't been able to get resolution on certain things. And I've had people say, wow, it feels like we're going back, in time, we're going back to a time when things, were a mess. And it's true, we are, because that's where Leo generation is leading us. Not just Leo, but also part of the Virgo generation still had a lot of those ideals heavily ingrained in them. And so that generation of Virgo also struggled to overcome the ideals and ideas and beliefs and concepts that were placed in their minds. And, when I talk about ideals, that is ideas, concepts, ideologies that are just thoughts. They're really not anything more than thought, but thought is probably one of the most powerful things in this world, and these ideologies are absolute proof of that. So remembering that, we manifest our world with our thoughts. It's very important that we understand what we're doing with our thoughts from here on out, right? And there should be no reason not to when there's someone here saying, here you go, look at these things, examine them, and make sure that they're in alignment with the better good of society overall, which is something that we should be experiencing and feeling naturally because we have moved into the age of Aquarius, which, ages last about 2,200 and some odd years. So with the age of Aquarius coming in, there is this sense of overcoming these things and having a connection among each other that is powerful and strong, and something that is very freedom and self-liberty kind of energy, right? It's an energy that is freeing itself from ideals, ideas, concepts, and beliefs. But with, the Leo and also part of the Virgo generation, those things have just kind of encroached on our society, and then they have been mutated and changed by the other generations that have come along and taken these ideals and said, look, I don't really want it to be this way. I want it to be that way. Another example of that would be your your Pluto and Virgo generation, who are the children of Pluto and Leo generation. They were railing hard against, as they peaked, that generation started to rail hard against the ideologies and things that their parents had set forth. And so they may have, decided that certain things weren't necessarily fitting for them. And so they changed the ideologies. Instead of removing the ideologies, they just kind of tweaked them a little bit and really got things out of control. They were the ones to raise both the Libra and the Scorpio generation. Now, Libra generation was also raised by the Leo generation. Parts of them were Leo, parts of them were Virgo generation. So Libra was an interesting generation that came along in between, and that generation lasted about 13 years, so did Scorpio. But Libra was like the 80s, that was the 80s kids. This was a time when being different was cool. And, being as different as you possibly could was the way to be, and there weren't a whole lot of social stigmas. And, they were breaking the barriers of all these different ideologies, but they weren't doing it, in an angry way or anything. They were just doing their thing, because Libra is kind of like a very balanced sign, and they were very much concerned with, or their purpose was really about connection and relationship and contracts, and in finding balance in certain types of relationships, and maybe even transforming what it means to be in different types of relationships. And that can mean interpersonally or career or, you name it, whatever kind of relationships there are. I'm sure that Libra had a hand in affecting that. And then the Scorpio generation came along. Now, Scorpio was directly raised by the Virgo generation pretty much because of the shortness of Libra. I don't believe any Libras, it would fall very close. They might be cuspers, but the Virgo generation primarily raised the Scorpio generation, which is the generation that you're seeing peak at this time, and this is all of these ideologies and things have just kind of boiled and accumulated and just turned into this big, gnarly mess. And it's because, everybody's kind of tweaked the ideologies as they moved along. And now we still have so many, which we should have been removing them. But Leo has always kind of stayed at the helm of things, and they've made sure that they have stayed at the forefront of our society. And there's a reason for that, and it is that these ideologies create division between us. The ideologies that we hold and we carry are the things that make us say, I don't like that person because they are like this, or I don't want that person around, or whatever the case may be, because of certain ideals, concepts, and beliefs, right? And so the idea that tweaking these ideals to make them accommodate this or make them accommodate that, that's got to go, because that is the thing that, like I said, creates that divisiveness between us. And when we are divided, we are weak, but together we're strong. And the thing is, I feel that the Sagittarius generation is coming up, and that generation is intuitive and they are connected. And when I communicate with someone from that generation, I feel like they are receiving, like there is a sense of energy exchange that I don't get with some of the other older generations, and I do with some people, but when it comes to, like, generally speaking, you know what I mean? I don't get that as often as I do with this upcoming Sagittarius generation. And even Capricorn is going to be very, very interesting and, like, focused, I think, and helping us to rebuild a foundation for ourselves after all that we have to kind of transform as we move through Sagittarius and Aquarius and Pisces. Capricorn's going to build us that wonderful foundation, right? And it may mean that things are going to get rearranged to some degree to where things are going to be better for us overall, and each generation's going to have their upheaval and then their transformation. So ultimately, it's like we're definitely moving towards something better the whole time. But like I was saying, there's this great sense of connection that comes from that Sagittarius generation, and they are a very interesting bunch. And I think that they are going to be able to kind of work with the Libra generation to create the kind of balance that we need in order to facilitate the right kind of changes. And I think that's why it's going to be very, very important, if you are one of the Sagittarius generation, that you start to get involved in your communities, because everything is going to be moving back towards smaller communities and us being able to manage things on a community level. And so I really feel like that's where it should go. And looking at it astrologically, it looks like that's where it will go as we move into Aquarius and Pisces and so forth. And Aquarius is all about that, community, strong community connections, overcoming anything that is dominating, I'm not using the right word, but yeah, overcoming kind of authoritarian systems and having self-liberty and being able to come together as a community as a whole, right? And so I really feel like there's that positive outlook here for us in the future. And I think we could kind of like speed things along if we could all just kind of get on board and say, all of these ideals, ideals, and concepts that we've been allowing to encroach on our lives and create limitations and create division and create dependency in some cases, we're not going to do it anymore. We have to find a way, if we're dependent, to alleviate that dependency, to become independent. And a lot of that strength will be found in your community and your family and your friends. So, we will be able to support each other in a certain way here in the next few decades, right? But we're working towards that, and I think that, if we just continue on the path we're continuing on and eliminate the things that we know have been a problem all along. It's called growth. It's called transformation. And so, yeah, I think that if we can see some of these changes now, we'll start to see a lot smoother go of things overall. And the other big part of that is to eliminate the grasp that the Leo generation has had on society for so long. And you can look all around the world. You can look at the world leaders. You can look at the people that are in high positions in our government. A lot of those people are from the Leo generation, and they don't have the answer. They don't have a way to fix it. but they're like, give it to me and let me fix it. You know, that one that wants to snatch it right out of your hand and say, let me do it. And they don't really know what they're doing. They have had, you know, a hand in this the whole time. They don't know how to fix it. And I don't think astrologically they have the placement to be able to fix it. The lesson for them is to be able to pass the baton, to hand their knowledge and their wisdom down to the future generations, to be able to do these things and to make these changes and to make it right. All right. So overall, the message is, you know, break down the ideologies and start to look at, you know, who we're allowing to take control of our future, right? Because some of the people that are in that Leo generation will not be here in 10 years. And I think that it's just totally crooked and crazy to think that those people would be making choices that will affect the future of our lives. So when we're looking at people to represent us, when we're looking at people that we might be falling under as in some sort of pecking order, you need to consider, you know, where they're coming from, you know, and what kind of ideologies might they be, you know, carrying on, and, you know, move forward accordingly. But just keep in mind that our future relies on our future generations. All right, guys, I hope this video helped you in some way. It was my pleasure. If you enjoyed the content, give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends on social media, and don't forget to hit the red subscribe button if you're not already an awesome subscriber, and click that notification bell so that you can get an alert when I release new videos. So right now I'm just kind of releasing them haphazardly, but I will be getting on a schedule and I'll let you know what that is real soon. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Thanks for your support. Take care.